Discipline is the bridge between thought and accomplishment. It is the silent force that takes dreams out of the clouds and plants them firmly into reality. It does not shout. It does not beg for attention, but it is present every time a decision is made, every time a temptation is resisted, every time a step is taken when comfort says rest. Discipline is the bridge between desire and achievement. Everyone has desires. Everyone has dreams, visions, and goals that light a fire in their imagination. The desire to be successful, to be strong, to be free, to create something meaningful. That fire burns in almost every human being at some level. But desire alone accomplishes nothing. It is the beginning, not the end. Desire is potential energy, waiting to be used. But without action, without sustained effort, it becomes frustration. And what converts desire into real, tangible results is discipline. Discipline is the tool that turns invisible dreams into visible outcomes. It is what moves a person from the realm of hope into the world of progress. People often confuse wishing with working. They talk about what they want. They imagine how good life could be if only things were different. But nothing changes until action is taken, and not just action once or twice. Anyone can start. Anyone can work hard for a day. But very few can maintain that effort day after day, especially when the results are not immediate. That is the gap where most people fall short. That gap between excitement and execution. That gap between intention and follow through. Discipline is what closes that gap. Discipline is not glamorous. It's not exciting. It doesn't give you the rush that inspiration does. But it is powerful and it is permanent. Because discipline shows up when emotions fade. Discipline shows up when you're tired, when you're frustrated, when you're bored. It doesn't wait for perfect timing. It doesn't ask how you feel. It simply acts again and again until the job is done. Desire may start the journey, but only discipline finishes it. People who achieve great things are not always the most talented, the most educated, or the most naturally gifted. More often than not, they are the ones who decided to keep going when others stopped. They are the ones who understood that wishing for success is not the same as working for it. They built their lives brick by brick, using discipline as the mortar that held everything together. Every early morning, every late night, every moment of sacrifice, every time they said no to distraction, they were laying another piece of that bridge between desire and achievement. Discipline is not about punishment or harsh routines. It's about alignment. It's about deciding who you want to be and then organizing your life so that your actions match that identity. If you desire to be fit, discipline is what gets you to the gym on the days you don't feel like it. If you desire to build wealth, discipline is what helps you stick to a budget when it's easier to spend. If you desire to grow in knowledge, discipline is what drives you to keep learning when distractions are everywhere. In every case, discipline takes the idea and makes it real. It takes the goal and makes it a part of your daily reality. There's a reason why so few people reach the heights they dream of. It's not because they don't have the potential. It's because they don't build the bridge. They want the reward without the repetition. They want the outcome without the effort. But life does not work that way. Achievement is earned, not given. And the currency is discipline. Not for a day, not for a week, but over the long haul, in the quiet, unnoticed hours where no one is applauding and no one is watching. The difference between those who live a life of impact and those who live a life of regret often comes down to how they treat their discipline. Some treat it like an option, something to apply only when it's convenient. Others treat it like oxygen, essential, non-negotiable part of their very identity. And when discipline becomes who you are, not just something you occasionally practice, that's when real change begins to happen. That's when you stop chasing results and start becoming the person who naturally produces them. Desire can give you a vision. It can create the spark. But it is discipline that feeds the fire. It is discipline that carries you through doubt, through fatigue, through setbacks. The world is filled with people who had great potential but never turned it into performance. Not because they didn't care, but because they didn't commit. They waited for the right mood, the right energy, the right conditions. And while they waited, someone else was building their bridge, one disciplined step at a time. Discipline is stronger than motivation. Motivation is a feeling, an emotional surge that often comes after watching an inspiring video, reading a powerful quote, or imagining a better life. It can be intense. It can feel like certainty. And in the moment, it can drive you to take action. But the nature of motivation is that it fades. It comes and goes like a wave, rising high and then crashing down when life becomes inconvenient, stressful, or ordinary. If you rely solely on motivation to move forward, your journey will be inconsistent and your progress unpredictable. Discipline, however, does not waver based on how you feel. It does not need a spark to keep going. It is built on commitment, not emotion. Most people begin with motivation. They feel inspired, energized, and ready to make a change. But the problem begins when reality hits. The new workout routine becomes tiring. The business plan runs into obstacles. The goal takes longer to reach than expected. At that point, motivation often disappears, and many people fall back into old habits. They think something is wrong with them, but the truth is simple. They were depending on motivation when they should have been building discipline. Discipline is what carries you through the moments when motivation is nowhere to be found. Discipline is a decision made again and again. It's the act of showing up not just on the days you feel like it, but especially on the days you don't. It's doing the work when the excitement has worn off. It's choosing structure over ease and long-term growth over short-term comfort. That choice, repeated daily, creates consistency, and consistency is the only path to mastery. Discipline doesn't rely on mood or momentum. It relies on identity. You don't act based on how you feel. You act based on who you've decided to become. People often overestimate the power of a motivated moment and underestimate the power of a disciplined routine. They think big change comes from huge bursts of effort, when in truth it comes from the small, repeated acts that are performed even when enthusiasm has faded. The person who succeeds is rarely the one who was most excited at the beginning. It's the one who kept showing up, the one who kept working long after the excitement was gone. That's what makes discipline stronger than motivation. It endures, it sustains, and it delivers. Discipline creates a foundation. It makes your actions predictable, your habits intentional, and your results inevitable. With discipline, you no longer need to wait for the perfect mindset to begin. You simply begin. You don't delay until you're in the right frame of mind. You create the right mindset through action. This is one of the most powerful shifts a person can make. Instead of being reactive, waiting for the feeling to do the work, you become proactive. You let the work generate the feeling. You let progress feed momentum, not the other way around. When you understand that discipline is a choice, you stop depending on inspiration. You stop saying, I don't feel like it today, and start saying, it's time to do what needs to be done. That change in language, in thought, in posture, shifts your entire relationship with your goals. Now you are no longer chasing motivation. You're building resilience. You are no longer subject to the ups and downs of your emotions. You are grounded in a higher standard, one that is not moved by momentary discomfort. Discipline also teaches you patience. It trains you to endure the in-between, the space between effort and reward, between planting and harvest. Most people give up because they don't see instant results. But discipline helps you stay focused when the results are still invisible. It reminds you that the process is working, even when progress is not yet obvious. It keeps you aligned with your purpose, even when your emotions scream for distraction. In a world where everything competes for your attention, where it's easier than ever to quit and start over, discipline is a rare and valuable trait. It separates the amateurs from the professionals, the dabblers from the doers, the dreamers from the achievers. Anyone can be motivated for a day, but to be disciplined for a year, for 5 years, for a lifetime, that is what leads to true excellence. There will be days when you are tired, days when doubt creeps in, days when nothing seems to go your way. And on those days, motivation will not be enough. But if you've trained discipline, if you've built it into your routine, your response will not be based on emotion. It will be based on principle. You will act because you've chosen to be a person who follows through, no matter what. That is the kind of power that motivation cannot offer. That is the quiet strength that belongs only to the disciplined. Your habits are the blueprint of your future. Every action you take, every routine you follow, every choice you make in the quiet moments is a vote for the type of person you are becoming. People often focus on big goals and future plans, imagining what success will look like when it finally arrives. But what they overlook is that the path to those outcomes is not paved with dramatic events. It is built with small, consistent habits. What you do daily shapes who you are becoming far more than what you occasionally decide to do. Habits are the architecture of your destiny. They are the unseen systems that drive your life forward or hold it back. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. You can want success, discipline, confidence, and strength, but if your habits contradict those desires, you will always find yourself stuck in frustration. You may aim high, but if your daily actions are small, scattered, or unfocused, the results will never match your vision. That is why your habits must be aligned with your goals. They must be designed intentionally to support the future you say you want. Without that alignment, your potential remains locked behind inconsistency and distraction. Discipline gives structure to your habits. It takes them from vague intentions to solid practices. It removes the guesswork and creates a rhythm, a cadence to your days that brings order to your ambition. With discipline, your habits are no longer dependent on motivation or convenience. They become a part of your identity, something you do because it's who you are, not just what you're trying. And when that shift happens, when habits become part of your self-image, transformation is no longer a struggle. It becomes natural. Every habit, no matter how small, is a seed planted in your future. If you water it with repetition and patience, it will grow into something powerful. The habit of reading 10 minutes a day compounds into deep knowledge over time. The habit of exercising regularly builds strength and energy. The habit of planning your day increases clarity and productivity. The habit of saving money, even in small amounts, leads to financial stability. None of these things happen overnight. They grow quietly, invisibly, until one day the results are undeniable. That is the power of habits. They reward the consistent far more than the intense. The key to building powerful habits is not to rely on willpower, but to design your environment and routines in a way that makes good choices automatic. Willpower is limited, but systems are sustainable. You don't want to wake up every day and ask yourself if you feel like doing the right thing. You want to eliminate the question by having a routine in place that makes the right thing the default. Structure creates freedom. When your habits are automated, your mind is free to focus on higher level thinking, creativity, and long-term strategy. Habits are also the most honest reflection of your priority. You can say that your health matters to you, but if you don't move your body, if you don't watch what you consume, your habits tell a different story. You can say that you want to grow financially, but if you constantly spend without tracking, if you avoid learning about money, your habits are not aligned with that desire. The truth is always in the routine. If you want to change your life, you must change your habits. If you want to see different results, you must first become the kind of person who naturally produces those results. When you build strong habits, you create momentum. Each small win builds confidence. Each disciplined choice strengthens your identity. And as your confidence grows, so does your ability to tackle bigger goals. You no longer feel like an imposter hoping to succeed. You become someone who expects to succeed because your actions consistently lead in that direction. Your habits become your evidence. They quiet the inner critic and speak louder than your doubts ever could. The beauty of habits is that they do not require perfection, only consistency. You don't have to be flawless. You just have to show up. Progress is made in the act of doing, not in waiting for the perfect time, even on the hard days, even when your energy is low. If your habits are strong, they will carry you. That is why they matter so much. They act as your foundation, your support system, your daily compass. Your future is not something you stumble into. It is something you build. Every morning you wake up, every choice you make, every action you repeat is shaping the path ahead of you. The person you become is not determined by what you say you want, but by what you do consistently and your habits. Those quiet, repeated actions are the tools you use to build the life you say you want. Whether or not you get there will depend entirely on whether or not you're willing to align your daily actions with your highest vision. Discipline creates self-mastery. It is the practice of ruling over one's own impulses, emotions, and distractions with deliberate intention. Most people live in reaction. They react to circumstances, to feelings, to opinions, and to temporary desires. They allow the outer world to control the inner one, shifting their direction based on the wind of emotion or external pressure. But self-mastery begins when you choose to live with inner authority. When you stop allowing your mood to dictate your effort and instead decide that your effort will define your mood, you begin to lead yourself. Discipline is the structure that supports this internal leadership. Without discipline, a person becomes a servant to their lower instincts. Cravings, habits, fears, laziness, these begin to make decisions on their behalf, and soon they find themselves moving through life without a clear sense of control. Discipline reverses that process. It hands the power back to the conscious mind. It reclaims the ability to choose, and choice is the essence of freedom. When you master yourself, you are no longer dragged by impulses. You are driven by purpose. Self-mastery doesn't mean suppressing emotion or pretending to be unaffected by life's challenges. It means having the power to respond with wisdom instead of reacting with impulse. It means that when you feel anger, you pause. When you feel fear, you investigate. When you feel tired, you assess your purpose before quitting. Discipline gives you that pause. It is the moment between stimulus and response where power is found. That power grows the more you practice it, and over time you develop the ability to remain steady in situations that would make others unravel. People often seek control over their environment, over their schedule, over other people. That control over self-control. But the highest form of control is internal, to govern your own thoughts, your emotions, your habits. This is where true strength lies. If a person can control themselves, they can handle anything the world throws at them. And that control is not a one-time act. It is a trained skill. It is developed through repetition, through conscious effort, and through the refusal to be ruled by weakness. Discipline teaches the mind to serve rather than sabotage. It replaces the default programming of comfort and avoidance with intention and action. When practiced daily, it conditions the nervous system to resist the urge to escape and instead lean into challenge. It strengthens the will, so when temptation appears, the mind does not collapse. The disciplined person doesn't wait until they feel ready. They act because their values demand it. They move forward because they've trained themselves to do what needs to be done regardless of how convenient it is. Every time you follow through on a commitment, no matter how small, you reinforce the identity of someone who is in control. Every time you choose what is right over what is easy, you prove to yourself that you are the one in charge. These moments compound. They build trust in yourself. That trust becomes confidence, and confidence built on self-mastery is unshakable because it does not depend on applause or approval. It comes from knowing that you can count on yourself, especially when it's hard. Discipline also reveals the truth of your potential. So many people walk around convinced they are limited, not because they truly are, but because they've never disciplined themselves long enough to see what lies beyond their comfort zone. They give up before they've even seen what they're made of. But the one who stays, the one who endures, the one who keeps showing up, that person discovers strength they didn't know they had. Discipline takes you past the edge of perceived limitation and shows you a greater version of yourself waiting on the other side. Self-mastery is the result of consistent, intentional living. It is not about perfection, but alignment. It is about choosing every day to become the person your future requires. And that choice will often feel uncomfortable. It will feel boring. It will feel repetitive. But that's the work. That's where growth hides. Not in the rare bursts of excitement, but in the steady rhythm of commitment. The disciplined person sees that discomfort not as a signal to stop, but as a signal to keep going. The more disciplined you become, the more freedom you gain. It sounds like a paradox, but it is one of life's great truths. Discipline removes chaos. It removes hesitation. It removes the confusion that comes from inconsistency. With discipline, your time becomes purposeful, your actions intentional, and your focus sharp. You are no longer pulled in every direction. You move with direction. You move with clarity, and clarity leads to power. Self-mastery through discipline is not something you achieve and then forget. It is something you renew daily. You practice it in small ways. By waking up on time, by finishing what you start, by keeping your word. These daily acts of self-respect build a foundation of integrity. They prepare you to face larger challenges with confidence because you've already trained yourself to act from principle rather than emotion. And as you master the small, you begin to master the big. Success requires repetition, not excitement. Most people begin with a burst of energy. They feel inspired, driven by a vision, and eager to start something new. That initial momentum feels powerful, like nothing can stop them. They make promises, set goals, and create routines that reflect their ambition. But as time passes, the emotional high begins to fade. The spark that once lit the fire grows dim. Obstacles appear, progress seems slow, results don't show as quickly as expected, and without repetition, without the discipline to keep going regardless of the emotional state, everything begins to unravel. The truth is, anyone can be great for a day. Anyone can show up once, can post their intentions, can speak confidently about what they will do, but few can return to the work after the novelty wears off. Few can repeat the same essential tasks day after day with the same commitment they had on day one. That is where success is built, not in the dramatic moments of inspiration, but in the quiet grind of consistency. Repetition is what builds skill. It refines technique, strengthens resolve, and removes hesitation. Repetition allows you to see patterns others miss. It creates muscle memory, not just in your body, but in your mind. The more you do something, the more natural it becomes. Repetition hardwires behavior, turns action into habit, and transforms effort into instinct. The person who commits to the process over and over becomes more than someone pursuing a goal. They become someone who embodies the traits necessary to achieve it. Excitement can give you the push to start, but repetition is what ensures you finish. Excitement is fleeting. It is based on emotion, which is temporary and often unreliable. Repetition is rooted in discipline, which is steady and dependable. When you focus only on staying excited, you become addicted to novelty. You keep starting new things, jumping from one pursuit to another, never staying long enough to grow roots. But when you embrace repetition, you allow deep work to take place. You develop patience. You build something solid. Repetition is what reveals your true intentions. If you say you want something but don't return to the process daily, then your actions expose the truth. Success doesn't require extreme effort once in a while. It requires steady effort over time. That means waking up to do the work even when the motivation is gone. That means sticking to your routine even when you're tired, even when you're discouraged, even when the results haven't shown up yet. Repetition is how trust is built within yourself. It tells your mind, I follow through. I don't just talk, I execute. In repetition, you develop clarity. You begin to understand what works and what doesn't. You refine your approach. You eliminate what is unnecessary and double down on what creates results. Repetition reveals not just progress, but precision. With each cycle, you grow stronger, more focused, and more capable. You gain experience that no theory or inspiration can give you. You earn your growth through the grind. Those who succeed at the highest levels understand this deeply. They are not looking for excitement, they are looking for rhythm. They know that mastering anything, whether it's a craft, a business, a mindset, or a skill, requires showing up consistently regardless of how they feel. They know that greatness is the reward for those who are willing to do the boring work. The work no one sees, the work that doesn't look impressive on the surface but lays the foundation for extraordinary outcomes. Repetition is also a test of character. It asks the question, can you stay committed when no one is watching? Can you hold the line when no one is cheering you on? Can you keep going when there's no immediate payoff? That's where most people stop. They confuse lack of excitement with lack of purpose. But the disciplined person understands that repetition is not punishment, it is preparation. It is how strength is built, layer by layer, through relentless commitment to what matters most. There is no secret routine, no magic formula that replaces hard, repeated effort. Success does not respond to flash, it responds to form, and form is developed through endless practice. The small decisions, the little disciplines, the repeated sacrifices, they may seem minor, but they compound into greatness. Every rep matters, every session builds, every moment you return to the work, even when it's hard. Even when it's mundane, you are casting a vote for your future self. The truth is, repetition reveals who truly wants it. When the excitement fades and the environment stops supporting you, only those anchored in discipline continue. They understand that mastery is not created by doing something once perfectly, but by doing it over and over, refining, adjusting, improving. And in that repetition, they not only become better at the task, they become stronger within themselves. They don't just get results, they become the kind of person who naturally produces them. Discipline separates the ordinary from the exceptional. In a world where so many seek shortcuts, easy wins, and instant gratification, discipline remains one of the few true differentiators. It is not something everyone embraces. In fact, most people avoid it. They choose comfort over challenge, distractions over focus, and excuses over effort. That choice, repeated over time, leads to mediocrity. On the other hand, those who choose discipline create a separation. They rise not because they are necessarily smarter or more talented, but because they are consistent, committed, and relentless. Exceptional individuals are not born that way. They are shaped, molded, and refined by the decisions they make every single day. What sets them apart is not one massive act of greatness, but rather 1,000 small acts of discipline that the world never sees. It's waking up early when no one is watching. It's staying late to perfect a detail that others overlook. It's saying no to distractions, staying focused on the mission, and doing the right thing even when it's the hardest option. These daily choices don't often feel glamorous, but they are the ingredients of greatness. The disciplined person sees opportunity in repetition. They understand that while others grow tired of the basics, mastery is found in the fundamentals. They do the foundational work over and over until it becomes second nature. They're not constantly chasing variety or novelty. They're building depth. That depth of skill, character, and mindset is what elevates them above the rest. They are not trying to impress for a moment. They are preparing to lead for a lifetime. What keeps most people average is their dependence on how they feel. If they're tired, they quit. If they're frustrated, they stop. If they're not instantly rewarded, they lose interest. The exceptional are different. They act on commitment, not emotion. They follow through because they said they would, not because it's fun or convenient. Discipline creates that edge. It builds a reputation, not just with others, but with yourself. You begin to trust your word. You begin to move differently, knowing that no matter how you feel, you will continue. It's easy to start. The world is full of people who begin strong and fade quickly. What's rare is the person who finishes what they begin. What's rare is the person who keeps showing up when the praise stops and the process gets heavy. That's the person who climbs. That's the person who separates themselves from the pack. Because while everyone else is looking for the next best thing, the disciplined are building the best version of themselves. Discipline demands sacrifice. It asks you to delay pleasure, to endure discomfort, to resist the easy path in favor of the right one. And this is exactly why so few walk the path to excellence. Because it's not flashy, it doesn't always come with recognition, it doesn't give immediate results, but it builds something no one can take from you: grit, resilience, and unshakable focus. Those qualities become your armor in a world full of distractions and doubt. When you choose discipline, you begin to experience life differently. You no longer live for approval. You're not chasing every opportunity. You're locked in on your purpose. You begin to understand that time is precious and must be used with intention. You stop entertaining mediocrity in your thinking, your work, and your environment. You begin to expect more from yourself. You raise your standard, not just because you want to win, but because it's who you are becoming. The exceptional don't become that way by accident. They do the work no one sees. They train when others are sleeping. They study when others are scrolling. They remain committed long after the motivation fades. Their success isn't luck. It's not coincidence. It's the result of daily discipline repeated over years. That consistency creates separation. It builds momentum that compounds, and before long, the gap between them and everyone else becomes undeniable. It's not just about working harder. It's about working with clarity and intention. The disciplined know what they are chasing. They are not scattered or easily swayed. Their focus is a weapon. Their routine is a framework for growth. Their life is organized around their values, not their impulses. And that kind of living creates results that seem out of reach to the undisciplined, not because they are impossible, but because most people aren't willing to pay the price that discipline requires. The truth is, everyone has potential. Everyone has access to the same 24 hours. What makes the difference is how those hours are used. Discipline maximizes time. It removes waste. It replaces procrastination with progress. It transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes. And while it may not feel easy, it is always worth it, because over time, discipline does what motivation can't. It keeps you in the game long enough to win. It gives you staying power. And that's where the exceptional rise. When everyone else has stopped, the disciplined remain. They keep building, keep pushing, keep rising,